The patrol ship Vornak drifted through the black of space, its sensors sweeping the border of the war zone. Ensign Tallis frowned at his console, a faint blip forming on the edge of the display. The reading didn't match any known transponder code. Power levels spiked far above standard limits, then dropped back to 0. The ship was there, then gone, then back again. Captain Durrell stepped closer, eyes narrowing at the holographic map. The shape was long and narrow, with no visible engines or weapons ports. Its hull reflected no light, almost like a piece of night had been cut from space itself. "Identify," he ordered. The computer processed the scan but returned no match, not Imperial, not Raider, not any allied race. The blip grew larger. The unknown vessel drifted forward without sending a signal. Tallis tapped the comms, transmitting standard warnings on all channels. No reply came. The captain ordered a warning shot. A burst of red energy streaked toward the black vessel. The shot passed through empty space. The unknown ship was gone. The sensors froze for a fraction of a second. The blip reappeared directly behind the Vornak, close enough for the crew to see it on the rear view screen. No energy signature, no engine heat, just the same black, silent shape gliding closer. Alarms blared through the patrol ship as crews scrambled to reorient the cannons. Inside the unknown vessel, the lighting was dim and the air calm. A crew of 6 humans stood at control stations. The captain, a tall man with sharp eyes, watched the Imperial ship turning its guns. "They still think we can't build ships like this," he said quietly. The pilot's hands rested lightly on the controls, not moving the ship so much as letting it drift like a shadow. The Vornak's gunners locked onto the target and fired. The human vessel shimmered for an instant and vanished again. In the next moment, it slid sideways through space, appearing off the patrol ship's port side. The sudden move bypassed the Empire's tracking systems entirely. Crew on the Vornak shouted updates, voices tight with disbelief. Captain Durrell ordered a full retreat to regroup with the nearest fleet. As the Vornak began to turn, the black vessel rotated in place, a silent predator watching its prey. A thin beam of blue light flickered from its hull, scanning the Imperial ship from bow to stern. Tallis's console screamed in alarm. The scan had bypassed every firewall, accessing restricted navigation and weapons data. Durrell's voice dropped to a whisper meant only for his first officer. This is human tech?" His officer shook his head. Every record in the Imperial database listed humans as a minor species with outdated freighters and barely functional warships. Nothing like this existed in their known fleet. The unknown vessel completed its scan and drifted back. No weapons fired, no hostile action taken. It simply turned and accelerated toward the edge of the system. But its speed was wrong. There was no buildup, no engine flare. One moment it was there, the next it was a speck, then gone beyond sensor range. The crew sat in stunned silence. Tallis replayed the scan data, his hands shaking. Energy readings were inconsistent with any drive core in the galaxy. Hull composition showed materials that defied known forging techniques. In the corner of the bridge, the communications officer whispered to herself, "Humans don't have ships like that." Light years away, the human vessel emerged from a fold in space. The crew moved efficiently, securing the scans they had taken. The engineer reported that Imperial encryption had grown stronger since the last encounter, but the ship's systems still cracked it in seconds. The captain studied the data on a large display, fleet deployments, patrol routes, defense codes. He gave a small, satisfied nod. The youngest crew member asked if the Empire would chase them now. The captain smiled faintly, his eyes never leaving the star map. "They will, and they'll panic before they even find us." The black ship adjusted its course toward another Imperial outpost, its engines still invisible, its presence undetectable until it chose to be seen. Far behind, the Vornak sent an urgent coded message to Imperial Command. The words were brief but heavy with alarm. Unknown vessel. Extreme speed. Total sensor evasion. Possible human origin. Request immediate fleet response. In the Imperial capital, high above the sprawling city world, the message arrived at the War Council chamber. Admirals leaned over the table, the image of the strange black outline flickering in the air before them. Voices overlapped, some dismissing it as false readings, others demanding investigation. Then a single phrase cut through the noise. "If humans have ships like this, the Empire is in danger." The order went out within the hour. All fleets on the outer rim were to scan for the unknown vessel. All human freighters were to be inspected. Patrols were doubled, and in the deepest levels of the Imperial archives, analysts began pulling every file on human history, searching for any hint that might explain how such a ship could exist. In the shadows of space, the human captain leaned back in his chair, unaware that his actions had just shifted the course of the galaxy. Or perhaps he knew. The black vessel slid into the dark between stars, carrying secrets the Empire would kill to possess, and somewhere, far ahead, another target waited, completely unaware that the humans were coming. The Imperial fleet formed a wide net in the empty stretch of space, each ship scanning on maximum range. Crews were tense, hands ready on weapons controls. Every captain had the same order: locate the black vessel, hold position until reinforcements arrive, and do not engage unless absolutely necessary. No one wanted to be the first to fire at something they didn't understand. The destroyer Vornak was positioned at the center of the formation, acting as the command ship for the search. Captain Durrell paced the bridge, watching the sensor officer's screen. Only static filled the display. Then, without warning, a small blip appeared on the far edge. It was faint, almost blending with background noise. Durrell ordered all ships to hold formation and prepare for contact. The blip grew stronger with each second, closing the gap faster than the fleet's best interceptors could match. The comms officer tried sending signals, but nothing returned. The shape came into focus, long, narrow, black, gliding toward them with no visible engines. Before anyone could react, new alarms filled the bridge. Another fleet had entered the system. Raider ships, heavily armed and hostile to both the Empire and humanity. Their sudden arrival threw the Imperial net into chaos. The raiders wasted no time, firing on the nearest destroyer. Energy blasts lit the darkness as shields strained and metal tore. The black vessel changed course instantly, cutting through the battle lines like a ghost. Imperial gunners hesitated, afraid to shoot at the same target that seemed to be striking the raiders. In less than a minute, 3 raider ships exploded, each with a single hit that bypassed shields completely. The attacks were silent, no visible projectile, no beam, only an impact and instant destruction. On the bridge of the black vessel, the human captain stood calm, issuing short commands. The pilot executed sharp turns and impossible maneuvers, weaving between enemy fire. The ship's weapons fired without heat signatures, without energy spikes. To outside sensors, it looked as if the raider ships were simply breaking apart on their own. In the Imperial fleet, officers stared in disbelief. No known ship could move like that, especially not while delivering such precise kills. Durrell felt a chill run down his spine. Every blast from that vessel was intentional, calculated, never missing, never wasting a shot. The raiders tried to swarm the human vessel, but each time they approached, it vanished for seconds, reappearing at their flanks. One heavy cruiser attempted to ram it, only to pass through empty space as the black ship shifted position mid-charge. The raider fleet began to scatter, breaking formation in panic. Durrell's first officer leaned close and spoke in a low voice. "If this is human, then they've been hiding far more than we thought." Durrell didn't answer, his eyes fixed on the ship as it cut through the last raider formation. The battle ended as quickly as it began. The human vessel slowed near a raider transport, locking a blue beam onto it. A few seconds later, the transport's cargo bay was torn open and several small objects were pulled aboard the black ship. No attempt was made to destroy the transport afterward. It was left adrift. Before the Imperial fleet could close in, the human ship tilted slightly, as if acknowledging the watching Empire vessels. Then it accelerated, no engine flare, no gradual buildup, just instant speed. In a blink, it was gone, leaving the Imperial fleet in silence. Reports poured in from across the formation. Sensor logs corrupted during the encounter, weapon targeting systems briefly disabled, communications jammed for exactly 12 seconds. Yet the humans had never fired at an Imperial ship, never damaged them, never exchanged a single word. At Imperial Command, the battle data was reviewed with mounting unease. Every movement of the black vessel had been deliberate, as if the crew knew exactly how the raiders would react. The technology used was still beyond explanation. Analysts ran simulations trying to recreate the maneuvers, but no Imperial ship could match even half the speed or turning rate. The Emperor himself was briefed within the hour. Advisors argued over the meaning of the event. Some insisted the humans had stolen alien technology and were testing it. Others claimed it was proof of an ancient weapon rediscovered. A few warned that if humans could mass produce such ships, the Empire's fleets would be obsolete. In human space, the black vessel docked inside an asteroid base hidden in a dust cloud. The crew moved quickly, unloading the recovered cargo from the Raider transport. Inside the crates were rare energy cores and encrypted data drives. The engineer connected one of the cores to the ship's systems, boosting power output even further. The captains studied the stolen data, his expression unreadable. The files contained maps of hidden Imperial supply routes and locations of secret shipyards. The pilot asked if they would share this with the human government. The captain shook his head. Not yet. The fewer people who know, the safer we are. Back in the Imperial capital, orders went out to increase patrols near human space. Every human vessel, no matter how small, was to be scanned and tracked. Imperial agents were dispatched undercover to human colonies, tasked with finding any sign of a ship matching the black vessel's description. Rumors began spreading in both human and alien territories. Some called it a phantom ship, others said it was a weapon from a forgotten war. Traders whispered about a vessel that could strike without warning and vanish into the dark. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire felt uncertain about its place in the galaxy, and far beyond the reach of Imperial patrols, the black vessel powered down in silence, its crew preparing for the next mission. The captain's voice was calm as he spoke to his crew. "The Empire has noticed us. Good, now they'll start making mistakes." Imperial Intelligence Command was locked down under full security protocol. Dozens of analysts sat at glowing consoles, replaying every scrap of footage from the battle. Images of the black vessel appeared again and again on the central display, each frame enhanced, filtered, and compared to every ship in the galactic registry. No match appeared. The hull was seamless, no weld lines, no visible maintenance hatches. To some, it looked grown rather than built. Senior investigator Kareth leaned forward, eyes fixed on the readout of the ship's power signature. The readings spiked far above known engine capacity, then dropped to 0 without any sign of heat discharge. That alone broke half the known laws of engineering. He presented his report to the Admiralty with a single troubling conclusion. If this was human-made, humanity had surpassed the Empire in key technologies without anyone noticing. The admirals argued over the possibility. One insisted the humans must have stolen the ship from some extinct race. Another claimed it was an experimental vessel from one of the outer colonies, hidden away to avoid taxation. A third pointed out that humans lacked the industrial base to build such a thing. Yet no one could explain how it moved, fought, or disappeared from sensors. The Emperor ordered a covert investigation. No public statements would be made. No open accusations toward the human governments. The Empire would dig quietly, searching for the source of the black vessel. Spy networks were activated, trade manifests from human colonies cross-checked, and deep space probes sent to sectors where human freighters had gone missing. In a dimly lit interrogation room, the captured Raider captain from the battle sat chained to the table. His scaled skin twitched each time a question was asked. He described the human ship in shaking tones, how it appeared in the middle of their formation, how its weapons cut through armor like it wasn't there, and how its crew never spoke or hailed. "It was like fighting shadows," he muttered, eyes darting as if the memory still haunted him. Shadows with perfect aim. Kareth listened carefully, noting every detail. The Raider claimed the humans had been using the ship for at least 2 years, striking only Raider fleets and vanishing before Imperial patrols arrived. This suggested a pattern, but one that was carefully designed to avoid open confrontation with the Empire. On a hidden asteroid base deep in uncharted space, the black vessel's crew gathered in their operations room. The captain stood at the head of the table, reviewing a holographic map filled with Imperial patrol routes. The stolen data from the Raider transport revealed secret military convoys carrying advanced weapons. Crew discussed whether to intercept them, but the captain reminded that every move would increase the risk of being tracked. The ship's engineer, a quiet woman with oil-stained hands, suggested upgrading the stealth systems with components from the newly acquired energy cores. That would make them nearly invisible even to the Empire's most advanced scanners. The crew agreed, knowing it would buy them more time before the inevitable confrontation. In the Imperial capital, the Admiralty grew restless. Weeks passed without another sighting. Some officers began to believe the ship had been destroyed in the battle or lost to hyperspace instability. Others warned that its crew was watching, learning, and waiting for the right time to strike again. The Emperor summoned the High Council for a closed meeting. He played the battle footage in silence, letting the room absorb the way the black vessel moved, how it destroyed enemies in single blows. When the lights came back on, his voice was cold. If humans can field even 10 of these ships, our fleets are no longer the strongest in the galaxy. He ordered the creation of Task Force Obsidian, a unit dedicated entirely to finding and capturing the black vessel, no matter the cost. Rumors began to leak, despite the secrecy. Merchants whispered in spaceports about a ghost ship with no engines. Smugglers claimed it could slip inside Imperial space without tripping alarms. On fringe worlds, the story grew into a legend that humans had made a deal with ancient star gods, trading their souls for invincible warships. The crew of the Black Vessel listened to these rumors over intercepted transmissions, amused at how quickly truth had turned into myth. The youngest member, barely out of academy age, asked the captain if they should reveal themselves to humanity's leaders to gain official support. The captain shook his head slowly. The moment politicians know, they'll fight over it. And when they fight, we lose what makes us dangerous: secrecy. Task Force Obsidian's first operation launched from the Imperial capital without fanfare. 5 stealth frigates, 2 heavy cruisers, and a sensor ship equipped with prototype tracking arrays slipped into human border space. Their mission was to follow trade lanes, shadow suspicious freighters, and wait for the black vessel to appear. The black vessel's sensors detected them long before they were close. Hidden in a debris field orbiting a dead moon, the crew watched the task force pass. The pilot grinned, hands itching to test their ship against the new Imperial stealth tech. But the captain gave the order to hold position. Patience was their greatest weapon. On the final day of the operation, the Imperial task force returned home empty-handed. The black vessel had never shown itself, and no human ship inspected had anything unusual. The admirals were furious. Resources were being poured into chasing what some now called a phantom born from faulty sensors. Kareth, however, did not share their frustration. In his private report to the Emperor, he wrote one chilling sentence: "If it is human, they are choosing when and where to be seen. And that means they have a plan." Far away, in the cold silence between stars, the black vessel powered up for another mission. This time, their target was, not a raider or a supply ship. It was an Imperial relay station, deep in the heart of the Empire's communication network. The captain's voice was steady as he gave the order to jump. "Let's show them we're still here." The Imperial relay station floated above a pale green planet, its long antenna arrays pointed toward the stars. Inside, operators monitored thousands of encrypted transmissions, unaware that something was approaching in the silent dark beyond sensor range. The night shift was quiet, the hum of machinery the only sound. The black vessel slid out of the shadow of a distant moon, cloaked so completely that the station's scanners saw nothing. The human pilot adjusted the trajectory, bringing the ship to a slow drift toward the station. Inside the vessel, the engineer was already working at a console, preparing to intercept the station's data streams the moment they were in range. 2 Imperial patrol ships orbited the station in a lazy circle. They had no reason to be alert. No one had ever attacked this relay. The human captain studied their patrol pattern, eyes narrowing as he found the gap in their sweep. The pilot moved the vessel with such precision that it passed directly between the 2 patrol ships without either noticing. Docking was never part of the plan. The black vessel stopped just outside visual range of the station's windows. A faint pulse of energy rippled from its hull, invisible to the naked eye. Inside the station, every monitor flickered for a moment. The operators frowned, thinking it was a minor power surge, then froze as their screens began streaming data they hadn't requested. Kareth, far away in the Imperial capital, was reviewing routine communications logs when a red alert flashed on his desk. The relay station systems had been compromised by an unknown source. He immediately ordered nearby fleets to converge, but the delay in communication meant help was hours away. On the station, the crew scrambled to cut off the intrusion, locking down systems and physically disconnecting servers. But the black vessel's beam was faster. It copied petabytes of encrypted files, including fleet deployment schedules, secret research projects, and emergency protocols. One of the patrol ships finally noticed an energy fluctuation in the station's outer perimeter. Its captain turned toward the dark and caught a glimpse of something, just a faint distortion against the star field. He ordered weapons ready, but before the cannons could lock on, the distortion vanished. The black vessel had folded space, reappearing kilometers away in an instant. The station's commander shouted into the comms, demanding a full lockdown. Doors sealed, shields activated, and distress signals went out. But it was too late. The humans had what they came for. In the asteroid base, hours later, the stolen data scrolled across the main display. The crew read in silence. The files revealed that the Empire was building a new type of warship, larger than anything in service, with weapons designed to pierce planetary shields. The project was in secret construction yards along the far rim, heavily guarded and completely hidden from public knowledge. The youngest crew member asked if they were going to destroy the shipyards. The captain shook his head. Not yet. We need to know why they're building them. If these ships aren't for the raiders, then they're for someone else. In the Imperial capital, the Admiralty was in chaos. Task Force Obsidian had been recalled to investigate the breach. The Emperor demanded answers, his voice like steel. You told me they could not slip past our defenses, and yet here they are, stealing from our heart. No one dared to speak. Kareth stepped forward with his analysis. The attack had been surgical, precise, and left no trace of conventional technology. The intruder had entered and exited the most secure space in the sector without triggering standard alarms. We are not hunting an experimental vessel, he said. We are hunting a crew that knows us better than we know ourselves. The Emperor ordered the next stage of the search. Human space was to be flooded with disguised Imperial agents. Any engineer, pilot, or scientist showing signs of advanced knowledge would be detained. The black vessel was to be intercepted on sight, even if it meant violating human sovereignty. Meanwhile, in the asteroid base, the crew prepared for their next move. The pilot plotted a course toward the far rim, toward the secret shipyards. The engineer began calibrating the stealth systems to account for the new patrol routes the stolen data had revealed. Before departure, the captain gathered the crew. His voice was quiet but firm. They will be waiting for us now. Every move we make will be harder, but every step we take brings us closer to knowing the truth. And when we know, the game changes. Far from both the Empire and the humans, deep in the black between stars, the secret shipyards loomed in the dark. Massive frames of unfinished warships floated in silence, their metal skeletons glinting faintly in the distant light. Around them, defense platforms drifted, automated turrets scanning every approach. The black vessel's journey toward them had already begun, and somewhere inside those steel frames, the next chapter of the galaxy's balance of power waited to be written. The black vessel emerged from a silent fold in space, far beyond the reach of any normal Imperial sensors. In the distance, the secret shipyards hung like dark giants, their incomplete warships suspended in the void. Huge construction arms moved slowly over the skeletal frames, welding massive armor plates into place. Defense platforms floated in a wide perimeter, each armed with heavy cannons and advanced tracking arrays. The human captain studied the view from the command chair. The stolen Imperial files had been accurate. There were at least 6 warships under construction, each larger than a city, their weapon mounts already installed. The engineer leaned closer to the screen, noting the strange shape of the hulls. They were not designed like the Empire's standard dreadnoughts. These ships were built for extreme speed and devastating first strikes. The pilot traced a path through the defense perimeter, avoiding direct sensor sweeps. Even cloaked, the black vessel could not remain invisible if it touched one of the high-frequency scan beams. The crew worked in silence, every movement careful. One of the defense platforms drifted slightly, its scan cone shifting just enough to open a gap. The captain gave a short nod. The pilot slid the vessel forward, gliding through the darkness until the ship was directly above one of the unfinished warships. From this angle, the scale was overwhelming. Its armored hull stretched for kilometers. The ship's stealth drones launched silently, dispersing around the construction site. Each drone carried a small device capable of recording communications, mapping structural weaknesses, and tracking supply routes. The engineer monitored their signals, watching as they embedded themselves on the massive hulls without detection. A sudden flash lit the darkness. One of the far perimeter sensors had picked up a faint distortion. An Imperial patrol corvette broke formation and began moving toward the disturbance. The crew on the black vessel froze. The pilot's hands hovered over the controls, ready to shift position instantly. The captain waited, eyes locked on the corvette's movement. The corvette's scanners swept through the empty space where the vessel had been seconds earlier. The humans had already moved, sliding behind the shadow of a half-finished warship. The corvette lingered, sending coded signals to the defense platforms. For a tense moment, the crew thought the alarm would be raised. Then the corvette turned back to its patrol route. The drones returned one by one, carrying massive data caches. The information was worse than expected. The warships were being built with an unknown new material, lighter and stronger than anything in the Imperial Navy. Their weapons were designed to burn through planetary shields in minutes. The targeting algorithms indicated they were meant for rapid planetary assaults, not long sieges. The captain scanned the files and his expression hardened. These aren't for the raiders. These are for us. For humans. The room went silent. No one argued. The design, the speed, the power, it all pointed to the Empire preparing to strike before humanity could rise too far. The engineer suggested sabotaging the warships immediately, but the captain refused. Destroying them now would reveal the humans' involvement. The Empire would move faster, and the black vessel would lose its advantage. Instead, the captain ordered that the information be sent to certain human defense circles through anonymous channels. Humanity had to be ready, but the Empire could not know who had given the warning. On the Imperial command station near the rim, the shipyard overseer reviewed a sensor log that troubled him. For less than 2 seconds, one of the perimeter scans had recorded an energy signature, so faint it could have been static. He marked it for Task Force Obsidian's review, unaware that the trail was already cold. Kareth received the log later that day. His instincts told him it was the black vessel. The timing was too perfect, the location too sensitive. He dispatched orders for all nearby fleets to tighten their patrols and authorized the deployment of new experimental pulse scanners designed to disrupt stealth fields. The black vessel slipped away from the shipyards, retreating into the uncharted dark. The crew gathered in the operations room to plan their next move. The pilot wanted to keep striking at the Empire's secret projects. The youngest member argued for revealing themselves to humanity's leaders. The captain reminded them all that survival depended on staying unseen. Back in the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood in the War Council chamber, gazing at a holographic projection of the incomplete warships. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of iron. When these ships are complete, the galaxy will understand there is only one power worth fearing. The humans on the black vessel understood something the Emperor did not. Fear could work both ways. They now had proof of the Empire's plan, and every mission from this point would be aimed at delaying or dismantling that plan without exposing themselves. The captain ended the meeting with a simple command. We've seen the weapons they're building. Now we make sure they never get to use them. The ship turned silently in the void, vanishing into the folds of space, leaving the massive shipyards untouched but marked for the day the humans chose to strike. Imperial warship Invictus cruised along the rim sector, its new experimental pulse scanners sweeping the void in slow arcs. The crew moved with quiet confidence, believing the devices would finally catch the elusive black vessel. The captain of the Invictus had been promised a high reward if he was the one to bring the Phantom ship in. Far away, the black vessel's crew monitored the Imperial patrols through stolen relay data. The captain pointed to the Invictus on the holographic map, its scanning field spreading like a web. The pilot smirked, noting the slow turning rate of the massive warship. The engineer warned that the new scanners could cut through their current cloaking system if they got too close. The captain ordered a long, looping course that would bring them just inside the scanner's outer range. They needed to test the new technology before deciding their next moves against the shipyards. The pilot eased the black vessel forward, its systems whisper quiet, every reading minimized. The Invictus picked up a faint disturbance. The sensor officer leaned in, adjusting the filters. The blip was weak, irregular, but it was there. The captain ordered an intercept course. Imperial engines roared, cutting across the blackness toward the unknown target. The humans stayed calm, adjusting speed to keep the distance between them constant. The engineer ran diagnostics, feeding false readings into the surrounding space to confuse the scanner. The Invictus drew closer, the scanner field brushing over the black vessel like a ripple through water. For a moment, the cloaking shimmered, then stabilized. On the Imperial bridge, the blip vanished. The captain slammed a fist onto the console, convinced the target had used some kind of warp jump. The sensor officer swore he had seen movement just before the disappearance. Orders went out to spread the search net wider. The black vessel slipped to the Invictus's flank, close enough to watch the massive warship's hull. The pilot rotated slowly, bringing the rear of the Invictus into view. The engineer released a tiny drone no bigger than a human fist. It latched onto the Invictus's communications array, beginning to copy encrypted orders and fleet movements. Inside the Invictus, the crew had no idea. The drone's signal was masked, piggybacking on the warship's own transmissions. The black vessel drifted away before the next scan pulse could sweep over them. Minutes later, the drone detached, pulled back aboard, and its memory was downloaded into the ship's systems. The files revealed that the first of the new warships at the shipyard would be operational in less than 6 months. The Empire planned to test its firepower on an uninhabited moon near the human border. The captain's eyes darkened. That moon's destruction would send a clear message to humanity: submit or be crushed. Kareth read the latest patrol reports in the Imperial capital. One entry caught his attention: unexplained fluctuations in the Invictus's sensors during a routine sweep. He ordered the data sent to his private terminal. Reviewing the timing and location, he knew instantly who was responsible. His suspicion hardened into certainty. The humans were watching the Empire's every move. Task Force Obsidian was deployed again, this time in overlapping patterns to trap the black vessel. Stealth frigates took up positions around suspected human approach routes. Decoy transmissions were broadcast to lure the Phantom ship into revealing itself. The captain of the black vessel studied the trap on the holographic map, recognizing it instantly. The Empire was learning, but not fast enough. He planned a counterstroke, not by avoiding the trap, but by stepping directly into it and leaving the Empire chasing shadows. The pilot brought them toward the outer edge of the frigate formation, just within passive sensor range. The engineer activated a false signature generator, projecting the reading of a small, unarmed human freighter. The nearest Imperial ship adjusted course, closing in. As the frigate moved in, the black vessel shifted, slipping past its flank and into the blind spot of another ship's sensor cone. One by one, they bypassed each layer of the net without a single alarm being triggered. By the time the Imperials realized their readings didn't match a real freighter, the black vessel was already hundreds of kilometers outside the perimeter. From a hidden position, the humans sent out dozens of short, scrambled signals that mimicked their own energy profile, scattering across the sector. Imperial ships raced after the false contacts, leaving the real vessel untouched. The captain gave a quiet order to set course for the human border. In the Imperial capital, frustration boiled over. Another operation had failed. The Emperor demanded harsher measures, ordering that any human ship found in restricted zones be destroyed without warning. Kareth argued this would only push the humans into open defiance, but his words carried little weight in the heat of Imperial pride. The black vessel glided into the shadow of a cold, dead world near human space. The crew gathered to review their stolen files. The captain pointed at the date of the planned weapons test on the uninhabited moon. They had 6 months to act, and every step would be dangerous. The youngest crew member asked if they would destroy the warship before the test. The captain didn't answer immediately. His gaze stayed fixed on the rotating image of the massive vessel under construction. "We won't just destroy it," he said finally. "We'll make them wish they never built it." In the darkness between the stars, the black vessel turned away from the dead world, its course locked toward the far rim. The Empire believed it was hunting the humans. In truth, the humans had already begun hunting the Empire. The half-built warship loomed inside the shipyard's defensive ring, its armored hull already gleaming under the floodlights. Construction drones swarmed over its surface, welding, sealing, and installing the massive cannons meant to tear through planetary shields. Imperial engineers worked day and night, unaware that in the shadow of a drifting asteroid, the black vessel waited. The human captains studied the display, tracking the movement of the defense platforms. The engineer had spent weeks building a new cloaking enhancement, one designed to bend even the Empire's latest pulse scanners. This was their only chance to get close enough to strike without warning. The pilot guided the black vessel in a slow, careful arc around the asteroid, staying out of the main sensor paths. Stealth drones launched one by one, dispersing like specks of dust in the void. Each carried charges designed to disable, not destroy, the defensive platforms. The captain's plan was not to fight the entire shipyard, only to blind it long enough for the real blow. One platform flickered, its lights dimming as the first charge went off. A second platform followed, then a third. The gaps in the scanning web widened, and the black vessel slid through them like a shadow slipping under a door. The massive warship under construction filled the forward view screen. Even unfinished, it radiated power. The engineer marked weak points in the hull where critical systems were being installed. The pilot aligned the vessel, holding steady as the weapons officer armed a single payload, a device that would eat through the warship's core systems without causing a full explosion. The goal was sabotage, not destruction, to ensure the Empire wasted time and resources trying to fix it. An alert flashed on the console. One of the blinded defense platforms had rebooted early. Its scanners swept the area, catching a faint reading from the black vessel's wake. The shipyard's alarms blared to life. Imperial interceptors launched from hidden bays, racing toward the disturbance. The pilot threw the vessel into evasive maneuvers, twisting and folding through short-range jumps. Drones that hadn't yet detonated activated all at once, creating bursts of sensor interference that filled the area with false targets. The interceptors scattered, chasing phantoms. In the chaos, the payload was released. It drifted silently through the void, attaching itself to the unfinished warship's power relay system. The engineer triggered the activation sequence. Tiny lights began to pulse along its edges as it burrowed into the warship's systems. Within minutes, the massive vessel's construction halted as its power grid collapsed. Drones froze mid-task, lights flickered across the hull, and the shipyard's technicians scrambled to understand the sudden failure. Imperial command stations across the rim received emergency reports. The new warship, flagship of the Empire's next-generation fleet, was crippled before it had even launched. Kareth read the incoming messages in silence, already knowing who was responsible. He sent a single, untraceable message to the Emperor. They were here. The black vessel broke away from the shipyard's perimeter, pursued by two interceptors that had locked onto its trail. The pilot shifted into a deep fold jump, a dangerous maneuver so close to a gravity well. The interceptors followed for a moment, then vanished from sensors as the fold closed behind the humans. Inside the ship, the crew exhaled in relief. The engineer confirmed the payload was still active, and based on its design, the Empire would be forced to dismantle large portions of the warship to remove it. Repairs could take years, if they were even possible. Far away in the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood in the War Council chamber, the hologram of the crippled warship rotating before him. Rage simmered beneath his calm voice as he vowed that the black vessel would be found and destroyed. But deep inside, the thought gnawed at him. If the humans could strike here, they could strike anywhere. The captain of the black vessel listened to intercepted Imperial broadcasts as the crew plotted a course away from the rim. Reports of the attack were spreading through both Imperial and human territories. Some called it a daring act of defiance. Others whispered that it was only the beginning. The youngest crew member asked what would happen when the Empire finally found them. The captain's answer was simple: by the time they do, we'll be ready. The vessel vanished into the darkness, leaving the shipyard in chaos and the Empire reeling from a blow it had never thought possible. The galaxy had changed, and every faction now understood one truth: the humans were no longer a minor race on the edge of known space. They were a force the Empire could not ignore, and somewhere in the endless night, they had a ship the galaxy feared to even speak of aloud. The Emperor sat at the head of the long crystal table, his golden robes reflecting the dim light of the council chamber. Around him, his most trusted advisors sat in silence, each one avoiding the other's eyes. No one dared to speak first. Outside the thick walls, the city of the imperial capital went about its day, unaware that the entire future of the Empire had just shifted. The treaty lay on the table, its smooth metallic surface glowing faintly with the human insignia, a simple blue and white emblem that now carried more weight than the imperial crest itself. The words were clear: all human worlds and colonies were to be recognized as fully independent. No imperial patrols would be allowed near them, no trade restrictions could be imposed, and no military actions could be taken without mutual consent. The Emperor's jaw tightened as he stared at the text. This was the first time in over 1,000 years that the Empire had been forced to acknowledge another power as an equal. It felt like a humiliation, yet deep down he knew it was not just fear driving this decision, it was survival. The human commander sat calmly on the other side of the table. No golden robes, no heavy armor, no ceremonial display, just a simple dark uniform with a small silver badge over the heart. His face betrayed nothing, but his eyes carried a confidence that unsettled the entire room. He didn't need to threaten them now. The demonstration above the Capitol had been enough. Every person here had seen the footage, how the human ship had appeared from nowhere, bypassing every defense, hanging in the air above the palace for 5 long minutes before vanishing without a trace. "Sign it," one of the older advisors whispered. "We cannot match them. Not yet." The Emperor said nothing. He thought about the reports from intelligence operatives. Every spy sent to gather information on human technology had vanished. Entire scout ships had gone missing. There were no battle logs, no recovered wreckage, no weak point to exploit. The humans had erased their trail with precision that was almost frightening. Finally, the Emperor took the stylus and pressed his mark onto the treaty. A soft tone signaled that the agreement had been sealed in the galaxy's central record system. Across the stars, this moment would be broadcast as a historic day, a peace between the Empire and humanity. But for those in the room, it was clear that the power had shifted. The human commander stood, gave a polite nod, and said only one sentence before leaving: "From this day on, we are not your subjects." When the chamber doors closed, the Emperor leaned back in his seat. The silence felt heavier now. No one spoke for several minutes. It was the youngest advisor who finally said what they were all thinking: if they can do this to us, they can do it to anyone. The galaxy will know. Our enemies will know. And indeed, news traveled fast. In the trade markets of the outer systems, alien merchants whispered about how the mighty Empire had been forced into peace by a species once considered primitive. In the barracks of distant military outposts, soldiers talked about the human ship that no weapon could touch. Pirate clans, independent colonies, and rival powers began to see Earth not as a weak fringe world, but as a force that could challenge the oldest empire in the known galaxy. In the weeks that followed, imperial diplomats found themselves in an unfamiliar position, negotiating from a place of caution, not dominance. Trade envoys from neutral systems began visiting human space, eager to build ties. The humans accepted visitors politely, but always under strict rules, never revealing the true extent of their technology. For ordinary imperial citizens, life continued much as before, but subtle changes began to appear. Human goods started appearing in markets: simple tools, energy cells, and small devices that were cheaper and more reliable than imperial versions. Pilots whispered about human navigation systems that could plot courses through unstable wormholes without error. Inside military headquarters, high-ranking officers held closed-door meetings, studying every scrap of data about human capabilities. They ran endless simulations, trying to find a scenario where Imperial fleets could win against human ships. Each time, the results were the same: total defeat in minutes. The Emperor ordered a massive research initiative to close the technological gap. But even the most optimistic scientists admitted it could take centuries. The humans had moved beyond the known limits of physics, and no one knew how. Meanwhile, the human fleets were rarely seen. They did not patrol aggressively or flaunt their power. They simply existed, somewhere out there, watching. It was this quiet confidence that unsettled the Empire most. An enemy who roared could be fought. An enemy who smiled and said nothing was far more dangerous. Over time, the panic inside the Imperial Court turned into a reluctant respect. Humans had shown they could destroy the Empire, yet they hadn't. They had chosen a treaty over conquest, partnership over war. This puzzled many, but to a few in the Emperor's circle, it was even more worrying. If humans weren't driven by greed or territory, what was their long-term goal? Months later, in a private council meeting, the Emperor spoke quietly to his advisors. "Do not mistake this peace for submission. They have no need to bow to us, and they never will. From this point on, every move we make must consider the humans." And so the galaxy entered a new era. The Empire still ruled vast regions of space, but its shadow no longer covered every star. In taverns, spaceports, and palace halls, one truth echoed again and again. The humans had ships the Empire didn't understand, technology the galaxy couldn't match, and the will to act when pushed. The age when humanity was just another small voice in the galaxy was over. Now, they were a force that even the greatest empire had to respect. And somewhere in the quiet depths of human space, more ships were being built. Ships the Empire hoped it would never have to face again.